Her weekend without Bernie. Let's play hardball.
America can't succeed unless you succeed. That is why I am running for President of the United States.
Good evening. I'm Chris Matthews in Washington. You want to fight? You've got one. Like Stephen Curry answering LeBron James last night, Hillary Clinton has spent the weekend putting up her points. Let Bernie Sanders, the self-styled socialist, charge up Wall Street. She's working Main Street, promising to create equal opportunity for the rest of us. You wondered what the Clinton campaign was missing? Well, now we know it. It was an opponent, someone to light up her engine. And thank God this thing isn't going to be boring after all. David Axelrod was senior advisor to President Obama. Eugene Robinson's a Pulitzer Prize-winning columnist with the Washington Post. And Lissa Muscatine was Hillary Clinton's chief speechwriter and senior advisor. And today at a press conference in New Hampshire, Hillary Clinton picked up where she left off after the weekend's big announcement speech. While Bernie Sanders is out there going after concentrated wealth, Clinton says that there is nothing wrong with success. Let's watch.
I don't think Americans are against success. I think Americans are against people who get on the top of the ladder and start pulling it up so nobody else has the same chance that they had, and then act as though, you know, they pulled themselves up by the bootstraps and a log cabin they built themselves. I mean, at some point, we're all in this together, and those of us who do have opportunities ought to be doing more to help other people have the same.
Now pay attention to that. Now, compared to what we heard from Bernie Sanders the day he announced for president.
This campaign, starting today, is going to send a message to the billionaire class, and that is, you can't have it all. To the billionaire class, I say that your greed has got to end. You cannot take advantage of all of the benefits of America if you refuse to accept your responsibilities.
Gene Robinson, I see a battle here, a battle royal, which I hope will get hotter and tighter and sharper, because I think Hillary Clinton has today staked out the standard Democratic mainstream position, which is we're here for getting the boats to go up, the tide to rise. We're not here just to lead charges against Wall Street. Yeah, Very different, I thought, than what he was offering.
Look, it's definitely a battle. I don't know if it's going to actually grow into a battle royal.
It needs to.
Well, no, I mean,
what are you going to talk
about?
Us,
that would be great, and we need something to talk about it. In fact, it's going to be very interesting because, you know, each of them is trying to talk to the soul of the Democratic Party, and she is delivering what is essentially the traditional Democratic
message. She's a Democrat, and he's a socialist.
Well,
he says he is. He's not knocking the guy. He is what he is.
Yeah.
He's finally saying what socialism means today. It means take from the very rich and use it to do school programs and stuff like that. Anyway, does the Democratic Party want to grow the pie or redistribute the pie? This weekend, Hillary Clinton talked about profits for everyone. Let's watch her.
In the coming weeks, I'll propose specific policies to reward businesses who invest in long-term value rather than the quick buck, because that leads to higher growth for the economy, higher wages for workers, and yes, bigger profits. Everybody will have a better time.
Well, yesterday, Bernie Sanders, the senator from Vermont, spoke about massive wealth redistribution.
There has been a massive redistribution of wealth, which has gone from the middle class and working families to the top 0.1%. We're going to take some of that money back for the middle class.
Well, David, there's the fight. I think Hillary says we can all do well if the rich start to pay their share and everybody else gets some opportunity. Bernie's much more, more socialist about it. He's basically saying, let's go get the money they got and give it to the people that need it. Different point of view, I think.
Well, look, we've got a situation where people now are, the median income in this country is about what it was in 1989. And there is a great deal of anxiety about that. And there is a great deal of anger about what is seen as the rigging of the system. That is real. But I think Hillary's fundamental approach reflects the mainstream of the Democratic Party. And I don't really believe at the end, I think she's going to be the nominee of the party. I think people will have a fling with Bernie. Bernie's like a great fun date because you know he's not going to be around town too long. And I think you're going to see people flirt with that. But at the end of the day, I think she's going to be the nominee, and she's going to incorporate elements of a more populist agenda, but it's going to be in a growth frame.
Well, that's interesting. Lissa, what do you think? Do you think?
Yeah, no,
I love the metaphor, not the one-night stand. That's too gross. But the idea that, you know, he's the wild kid in this case. He's the fun one to date for a while. But, you know, when it comes time to marry somebody, it ain't going to be Bernie Sanders.
No, that's.
Politically.
I mean, obviously, I agree with that, and I think David's right. Look, they both agree about one fundamental problem, and that is that they're.
I'm not interested in what they agree about.
No, but they're.
Okay, I'm going to warn you right now. Listen, you're on the wrong show.
Keep going.
Don't talk to Al Sharpton.
Keep going. Listen,
I'm not interested.
You're not going to go me into changing. No, I mean, they agreed that income inequality is the biggest problem facing the country, and they have different prescriptions for what to deal with.
Explain the difference.
Well, no, I mean, he's, as you said, he's more about redistribution of wealth. She's more about growth for everyone and having everybody have a bigger share of the pie. Her problem is the pie is this big, and a very small fraction of people are getting the bulk of it. Yeah. And so she's about having everybody get more of it, and she's been pretty clear about that. And he's about, I think, more punitive ways of going about that.
Is she smart enough not to be so punitive? Is she smart to be more like, hey, we're on this together, rather than we got to go to war against the rich? Is that a smart move in the mood today of the party?
Well, I don't know about smart or move. I think it's who she is. I mean,
David, when you register the party right now, would you say the party, I think it's more to the left, clearly. And clearly Hillary has notched herself a bit to the left of herself before, and her husband certainly, and she says so. But is it more angry, and you have to get angry and actually snarl a bit, really show you out to get the rich? Do you have to do that?
I don't know if it's about out to get the rich, but I do think that people think that there are inequities there. And the biggest thing is if you're for a growth Democrat, then you need to get the money somewhere to invest in education, to invest in research and development, to invest in infrastructure, to invest in the pillars of growth. And it has to come from the people who have gotten the benefit of the economy over the last so many years in exponential rates.
How do you do it with a Republican Congress?
Well, that's the issue that has to, that is a big issue because Hillary said she's going to be a better negotiator with Congress. And I think people see her as someone who can navigate Washington perhaps even better than President Obama. But it's going to be hard because anything that is labeled spending is dead on arrival in this Congress. And that's going to be a problem for any Democratic president.
Okay, let me cheat you next. When it comes to Wall Street, Hillary Clinton has scolded the financial community. Here she is at the Saturday's big announcement. Here she is here.
The financial industry and many multinational corporations have created huge wealth for a few by focusing too much on short-term profit and too little on long-term value.
Well, she's for long-term investments. Here's Sanders, Senator Sanders. On the other hand, he sounds like he wants to destroy Wall Street. Much different tone here.
Wall Street cannot continue to be an island unto itself, gambling trillions in risky financial instruments while expecting the public to bail it out. If a bank is too big to fail, that bank is too big to exist.
This strong talk there, very strong.
Well, I think the sweet spot is right in between those two statements, and it's where Elizabeth Warren has been on this issue and where some of Hillary's rhetoric has also gone in that direction, and that is the system is rigged. The system is rigged against middle-class people.
She's not talking like that now.
Well, but she has been talking like that.
I think there's some. Look, listen, you've written for it, and I tell you, I get the feeling this speech was very worked on. I think she had a lot to do with writing. It wasn't as good a speech, I think, as Jeb's was today. Jeb had a professional speech. He may not have written a word of it, but it sang. Hers was much more her. You know, the kind of speech that a regular person would write. Didn't you think?
Well,
it wasn't a speechwriter's dream.
It was a political, it was a political speech.
But it was her.
Yeah, no,
My
I mean,
mom.
her mother, she's laying out her life story and how the values that she believes that connect to the values of the country, that connect to where she wants to take the country. And I think that's what you want out of a speech like that. And, you know, the press constantly beats up on her about not having enough detail, so she threw in probably way more policy detail than is usually done in these kinds of launch speeches. But I think that was, you know, probably a little bit preemptive because she knew she was going to get creamed if she didn't do that. But it was also good. I mean, I saw a reporter a couple days ago who said, I loved all that. It really told me, you know, what she's going to do about, you know, early childhood education and so on and so forth.
She's always been there. I agree with you.
Yeah, so
Hey,
that's
you're
right.
laughing over there in the bleachers. What do you think was funny in what you just heard there? Because Lissa,
Well,
who was
it
just,
showed,
you're chuckling at her.
I thought it showed supreme confidence. She's so confident that she's going to get elected president that she actually gave the State of the Union speech early, which I think is
I completely agree with you.
commendable.
I thought that
Fun to say that.
Did you see her today? I thought it was so presidential, and I'm not her biggest fan normally, although I'm becoming more. I have to say that I like the fact that she has this guy, Nick Merrill, the young press guy that works for her now. He
Nicest
was
guy in
now
the world.
calling on press people in order, just like they do at press conferences. Wasn't that a big development, David, that she can now say who gets to ask? Poor Andrew Mitchell, the best in the business, didn't get to like 8th today because they're deciding who gets to ask the questions, I noticed.
Yeah, we'll see how long that lasts.
What do you think? You think that's going to be a problem?
I'll
I
tell
think
you-
she was great. Top of her game today because I think she was defining herself. And as every politician is going back to Murray Chotiner, the Nixon days, and Al Gore, if you don't define yourself very carefully where she wants to be, somewhere left of center, but not too far left, somebody else will. Anyway, Hillary Clinton's taking a cautious approach, clearly on the hot button issue of trade. She's being very careful. Here's what she said yesterday about the president's big TPP trade deal. Very careful.
They're the voices, you've heard them, that are for the deal no matter what's in it, and they're the voices that are against the deal no matter what's in it. Well, I kind of fall in the group that says, let's find out what's in it, and let's make it as good as it can be, and then let's make a decision.
Very interesting. Now, watch how much that sounds a lot like her husband did back in 1992 in the race when he was talking about NAFTA. Here's Bill Clinton in the 1992 debates.
I am the one who's in the middle on this. Mr. Perot says it's a bad deal. Mr. Bush says it's a hunky-dory deal. I say on balance it does more good than harm if we can get some protection for the environment so that the Mexicans have to follow their own environmental standards, their own labor law standards, and if we have a genuine commitment to re-educate and retrain the American workers who lose their jobs and reinvest in this economy. I have a realistic approach to trade. I want more trade. And I know there's some good things in that agreement, but it can sure be made better.
That is masterful, David Axelrod, a masterful way of finessing the issue, to put it nicely, so that he could support it after he became president without offending the unions on the way to becoming president. Brilliant piece of work there, I thought. Your thoughts?
Yeah,
and Hillary's trying to do the same.
Yeah, it was a little bit easier for President Clinton because he wasn't the Secretary of State in charge when these negotiations began, and when she left in December of 2012, she was in Australia. She called the TPP, she said it was going to be the gold standard for trade agreements. So this is very, very freighted for her. This is difficult terrain to navigate because she owned this to some degree, and now she has to try and navigate through it. So it's going to be challenging for her.
I was trying to be nice to her, and you're dragging me back in. Anyway, I just want to say, by the way, one other fraught aspect. Her husband is clearly for this. If somebody can find him, he will say so. Bill Clinton, I heard him in Tokyo, 100% said this was a magnificent bill. Anyway, now he won't be heard from for a while now. Anyway, thank you, David Axelrod.
Okay, good to be with you.
For being a little tougher on Hillary than I was. Eugene Robinson, thank you, sir. And Lissa, we'll have you back. Lissa Muscatine, who wrote some of these great words over the years.